You are listening on Garden Story. If you enjoy it, please like, comment, and subscribe. Wishing you happy listening. My fiancé had fallen in love with a widow, but due to family pressure, he still had to marry me. Upon hearing the news, the widow sought death by throwing herself into the river on our wedding day. Many years later, my family was executed for the crime of colluding with foreign enemies. He looked up to the sky and let out a long, mad laugh. This is the price you all must pay for destroying my love. Looking at his crazed appearance, that night I set fire to burn down the entire manor. Then when I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the exact day he came to break off our engagement. Marcus Reed brought his calling card to the door. Grandmother was still teasing me, saying that someone about to marry is different, already knowing to be more reserved. Who would have thought that Marcus had just stepped through the door when he knelt down asking to cancel the marriage contract? Grandmother was furious and immediately had someone throw him out. The next day, Marcus's parents personally escorted him to our house, with a whip on his back to receive punishment. They chose their words carefully to persuade. Marcus is just a child who doesn't understand. How could the Reed family possibly abandon a noble young lady like Serena to marry a widow? He's just been bewitched by that vile woman. Now he knows his mistake. Serena, please be magnanimous and forgive him this once. In truth, everyone secretly understood in their hearts. Marcus could have as many women outside as he wanted, and they wouldn't care. What they truly cared about was that the mistress of the Reed family must be me, Serena Hayes. Everyone understood that only a strong alliance could protect the interests of both families. But Marcus didn't agree. Even though he was forced here by his parents, he still looked at me with contemptuous eyes. No one can stop me from marrying Elena. Serena, if you have any shame left, dissolve the marriage contract yourself. Forcing me to marry you will only make me despise you more. He looked at me with cold eyes, intending to use these words to make me break down and agree to call off the engagement. I stared in shock for a moment. These words were all too familiar. In my previous life, Marcus had used these exact same words to provoke me. Back then, I endured the anger and swallowed the humiliation for the sake of my family. This time, I want to see if without me, he and his true love can make it to the end. I stood up and slowly walked to face Marcus. Fine. I agreed to dissolve the marriage contract. From now on, Serena and Marcus have no connection whatsoever. As soon as I finished speaking, everyone was stunned. Marcus was overjoyed and quickly said to me, "This is better for both of us. A marriage without love would only bury us both." Indeed, a marriage without love would not only bury me, but also bury the entire Hayes family. I truly want to see how long his love can last. After the Reed family left, Grandmother held me and cried bitterly. "Serena, you foolish child. Do you know what it means for a woman to be rejected in marriage? How will you live after this scandal?" I could only gently pat her back, not knowing what words to offer in comfort. Grandmother had been proud her entire life, never expecting her only granddaughter to suffer such. I lived. It couldn't be worse than marrying Marcus. The next day, the streets began buzzing with rumors. They said that Miss Serena of the minister's mansion was ugly and cruel in nature, which was why young Master Reed would rather marry a widow than agree to the marriage. Before long, the entire capital knew of my reputation as the rejected Miss Hayes. The gates of the minister's mansion were frequently watched by people sneaking glances, just to see what this shameless woman looked like. Grandmother and mother visited me daily, intentionally or unintentionally leaving behind several portraits of eligible bachelors. I understood their intentions, but I was waiting for the person who, in my previous life, died trying to clear the Hayes family's name, and who kept himself pure his entire life for my sake. Marcus and Adrian Chen had grown up together. The Hayes and Reed families were neighbors, and my mother and Mrs. Reed had been close friends since childhood. Therefore, Marcus and I had been betrothed since we were young. When we were children, I always followed Marcus around. He always seemed impatient and frequently tried to shake me off. Once he lured me to climb up a decorative rock formation, and then left me alone. It was easy to climb up but impossible to get down. The servants had been deliberately sent away by Marcus. I sat alone on top of the rock formation, not daring to move. "This little miss is quite interesting. I've never seen any noble young lady climb decorative rocks before." A voice suddenly rang out from below. I looked down and met Adrian's teasing eyes. Feeling both embarrassed and ashamed, I glared at him. Has no one ever climbed rocks to enjoy the scenery before? I've seen people enjoy scenery, but never someone who couldn't get down afterward. I was frustrated but helpless, so I had to ask for help. Young master. Please trouble yourself to find a servant to help me down. Come now, this young master will help you. Thinking that waiting for him to find a servant would take forever, I had to trust him once. As it turned out, he had overestimated himself and underestimated my weight. I broke his arm. When we returned to the main path, I learned he was the young heir of the Marquis Genuine's mansion. Everyone nervously watched Adrian, as the physician carefully bandaged and set his arm. I could only bow my head, trying to minimize my presence, fearing someone would discover that Adrian's broken arm was my fault. But in the end, Father still found out and made me copy Buddhist scriptures 10 times. I thought Adrian had tattled, so from then on I always treated him coldly. Yet every time Marquis Genuine returned from the frontier with gifts for him, he would select some to bring over as presents for me. In my previous life, when Marcus accused the Hayes family of colluding with foreign enemies, it was Adrian who endured 60 lashes to present a petition of injustice before the throne, and was then confined by the Chen family. He later fled to the frontier, accumulating military achievements, hoping one day to overturn the verdict for the Hayes family. If I hadn't witnessed with my own eyes how he rushed into the sea of fire to save me, I would never have believed that this person's feelings for me were so deep. Mother and grandmother continued tirelessly arranging blind dates for me. Dealing with them daily was exhausting enough. At midnight, I suddenly smelled the familiar cold fragrance of snow pine. Opening my eyes, I saw Adrian sitting right beside my bed. Young Master Chen, instead of roaming the world as a chivalrous hero, robbing the rich to help the poor, have you now switched to becoming a flower thief? I teased. Adrian raised his eyebrows. Still have the mind to tease me. It seems that shock didn't affect you much. Why wouldn't it? Now the entire capital knows I'm worthless. Marcus would rather marry a widow than marry me. It seems I can't marry anyone anymore. I pretended to look pitiful at him, then moved closer. How about you marry me? As soon as I finished speaking, his beautiful eyes lit up with brilliant starlight, but then quickly dimmed. Are you not fully awake yet? Didn't you once say you'd rather marry a beggar than marry me? I moved even closer, looking at him with increasingly hazy eyes. Marry me or not. If you miss this village, there won't be another shop. He pressed his thin lips together, his emotions unclear in the darkness. He stood up and walked toward the window. Wet for this young master to come with betrothal gifts tomorrow. If not for him nearly walking into the window, I would have truly believed he was completely unmoved. Less than 2 days later, Adrian's betrothal gifts were delivered. I was stunned at first sight. Good heavens, had he emptied the entire treasury of Marquis Genuine's mansion. As soon as he entered, he knelt before my grandmother. Old madam, I sincerely seek to marry Serena. Please grant your approval. Thud, thud, thud. 3 powerful kowtows echoed. This action made Marquis Genuine standing beside him quietly step back. Relying on childhood friendship, plus the display of wealth from Marquis Genuine's mansion. News of the alliance between the minister's mansion and Marquis Genuine's mansion quickly spread throughout the capital. Serena, look at this. With the wedding approaching, Mother is becoming increasingly worried. Daily, she would keep me busy, either learning to read account books or learning household management. With great difficulty finding a moment of leisure, I arranged to meet with several close young ladies for tea. As that the woman Marcus wants to marry. I thought someone who made him break off an engagement with our Serena would have to be some great beauty. I heard she runs a tofu shop in the East City, and Marcus got to know her by frequently going there to eat tofu. They didn't bother lowering their voices, making Elena Shaw's face turn bright red, wanting to enter but not daring to. I stood behind, carefully observing. She didn't look bad at all, fair skin, delicate eyebrows, and bright eyes. She was indeed a beauty, especially those hands. Perhaps from regularly making tofu, they were white as jade with slender fingers like bamboo shoots, making people inevitably take a second look. No wonder Marcus treated her specially. Alina followed everyone's gaze, then under everyone's astonished stares, she walked up to Princess Yongan and curtsied. Miss Hayes. I've come to apologize on Marcus's behalf. Though the young lady's appearance may be somewhat lacking, for the sake of the Hayes family's reputation, he should have been more tactful. I hope you'll forgive him. The room instantly fell silent. Elena stood there looking confused and bewildered, completely unable to understand why. Rumors among the people said that Miss Hayes of the minister's mansion had a face like a demon. Elena had mistaken Princess Yongan, who was wearing a veil, for me. In Princess Yongan's early years following Prince Ri to guard the frontier, she was unfortunately injured on the face. This was a secret no one in the capital dared discuss for fear of reopening her wounds. Where did Elena get such audacity? I stepped forward and slapped Elena hard across the face. Do you know who this is? This is Princess Yongan of Prince Ri's mansion. Elena's face immediately turned pale as paper as she collapsed at Princess Yongan's feet. Serena, don't go too far. Marcus had just entered when he saw Elena kneeling, his eyes filled with heartache. He turned to look at me, not bothering to hide his disgust. Is this how the Hayes family teaches manners? Bullying others at will. Bullying her. Is she worthy? I walked past the two of them to sit beside Princess Yongan on the soft couch. Marcus was about to help Elena up when he heard the whispered discussions of people around. That's young Master Reed's new fiancée. Her crude behavior shows no proper upbringing, completely incomparable to Miss Hayes, and she even dared to mock Princess Yong, who was wounded serving the country. I really don't know what young Master Reed sees in her. Marcus suddenly looked up and stared at Elena. Seeing her bloodless face and trembling body, he knew those words were true. Marcus bowed to Princess Yong. Princess, Elena certainly didn't know it was you. The Reed family is willing to donate 20,000 taels of silver to the northern garrison to apologize on her behalf. We hope your highness will be magnanimous and forgive her. If insulting the royal family can be compensated with mere silver, where would the dignity of the imperial house be? Adrian strode in, heading straight to where Princess Yongan and I were sitting. Princess Yongan was Adrian's aunt, so it was natural for him to defend her when she was humiliated. What does young Master Chen want? I heard the Reed family has a sharp blade that cuts through mud like dirt. Please gift it to Princess Yongan, along with 50,000 taels for the northern garrison. As for this woman, give her 20 lashes as an example. Marcus didn't expect Adrian to demand such a steep price. That blade was bestowed by the late emperor, he couldn't decide on his own. But Adrian's tone brooked no doubt, so he could only agree first and figure it out later. I don't know what method Marcus used, but Princess Yongan wrote me a letter saying she was extremely fond of that blade. Father said that Lord Reed has been frequently calling in sick lately, not even attending morning court. I wonder if he's been so angered by his son that he can't get out of bed. Because Elena was injured, their wedding was also postponed. Serena, look at this. This is the 1,000-layer cake from Liz's shop in South City that I specially bought for you. Adrian presented a paper package from behind his back like offering a treasure. I looked at him helplessly. You've already brought me candied fruits from East City, mung bean cakes from West City, and poria cakes from North City. Grace says my face has gotten rounder. Grace quickly waved her hands and curtsied to Adrian, smiling sweetly. Miss, this servant was praising how your face is round like the full moon, making you even more gentle. Adrian took out some silver and tossed it to Grace, who happily accepted it and withdrew. I looked irritably at Adrian's silly grin. Just one miss, and you're already this foolish. This radiant young man should be happy and joyful like this, not carrying the desolate eyes of someone dead, leaving his life on distant battlefields to accumulate military achievements. Serena, I've thought it through. After we marry, I'll take you all around the northern territories, eating all the delicious foods under heaven. Won't I become fat as a pig then? Adrian gently tapped my nose. Even if you become fat as a pig, you'd be the most beautiful pig beauty. I was so angry I threw a piece of 1,000-layer cake at him. He caught it with his hand, popped the cake in his mouth, then ran out to the courtyard, shouting while running, Serena, I'll come again tomorrow. Stay a bit longer and Minister will have someone chase you away. I looked up to see Father standing right at the door, not knowing how long he'd been watching. My face suddenly burned. Miss, Elena is fighting with someone at Linlang Pavilion, Grace shouted while running in. I helped myself up with Grace's hand. Come, let's go watch the show. As soon as we got off the carriage, we saw Linlang Pavilion surrounded by crowds. This hairpin must be sold to me today. Elena looked at the woman across from her, chin raised high, looking like a rooster stretching its neck. I stood in the crowd looking toward the other woman. She had a round face that seemed somewhat young, but her eyes were clear as autumn water, making people lose themselves in them. She wore no jewelry on her head, just simple white clothes, yet every movement shimmered with radiance. That was Lu Guangqin. Elena had kicked an iron plate this time. The woman spoke softly, her voice clear as a mountain spring. Miss, how much do you want to pay for this hairpin? I'm willing to pay 1,000 taels and compensate you an additional 500 taels. Would you be willing to let me have it? Elena's face immediately turned bright red as she shouted angrily. I'll pay 5,000 taels. The entire Linlang pavilion fell silent. Then bursts of mocking laughter rang out. 5,000 taels is enough to buy an entire jewelry set. Who would spend that on one hairpin? This Mrs. Shaw is truly a spendthrift. I wonder how much wealth the Reed family has for her to squander. Look quickly. Young Master Reed's face is black as the bottom of a pot. He must be here to clean up the mess. Marcus's face was indeed black as the bottom of a pot. He grabbed Elena's sleeve to drag her out, not forgetting to apologize to the shopkeeper. Shopkeeper? I sincerely apologize. Elena doesn't understand these matters. We're not buying anymore. After the last incident requiring 50,000 taels in compensation to clean up Elena's mess, the Reed family had no more silver left to manage. His father was just an assistant censor with a salary of 60 taels per month, completely unable to support the household. The Reed family was now almost without meat to eat. I looked at Elena, lips pressed tight, chin slightly raised, breathing heavily. It was a woman like this who made Marcus remember her for life, not hesitating to destroy my entire Hayes family to avenge her. Slap. Elena delivered a resounding slap to Marcus's face. How dare you treat me like this? After speaking, she ran away crying. I heard wedding music from the house next door and knew Marcus and Elena were getting married. I stood up to go outside, then turned back to grab a handful of melon seeds. Grace, is the big gift for them ready? Miss? Just wait and watch the show. A large crowd had already gathered in front of the Reed mansion. When Marcus rode his horse leading the wedding procession back to the mansion, he was stopped by the Capitol Guard. Young Master Reed. Someone has accused you of forcibly taking another man's wife. Please come with us to the courthouse. As soon as he finished speaking, Marcus's face went from green to red then pale again. He looked at the Capitol Guard and cupped his hands. Can I please escort the bride into the mansion first? I'm afraid not. Elena, as the party involved, must also come to court. The bride hasn't even entered the door and already has to go to court. This is something unprecedented in the capital. As soon as the guard finished speaking, people rushed toward the courthouse to secure seats, afraid of missing this excitement. Miss, shall we go too? Grace asked me, her eyes constantly glancing toward the courthouse. Since I already know the outcome, there's no need to go. Grace's eyes dimmed momentarily, glancing toward the courthouse once more, then helped me into the mansion. I laughed. I'm not going, but you can go. Come back and tell me how they fought like dogs. Grace's eyes immediately lit up as she ran off, waving and saying she'd return with amusing stories. Miss, you really missed out not going to watch. Elena saw Arthur and her eyes went wide, insisting she didn't know him, but Arthur pulled out documents stamped by the authorities. They couldn't deny it. You didn't see Marcus's face at that moment, like a color palette. It was hilarious. Grace excitedly recounted while gesticulating wildly. After my rebirth, I had begun investigating Elena and Marcus. Sure enough, Elena wasn't really a widow, her husband was still alive, just captured as a prisoner of war and forced to mine in deep mountains, which was why there was no news. I had someone rescue Arthur. He was extremely grateful. I casually told him about Marcus forcibly taking a civilian woman and Elena being forced to marry him. Arthur loved his wife dearly and chose their wedding day to accuse Marcus. Thus this drama unfolded. In the end, Marcus had to give Arthur 100 taels to reconcile with Elena. The Reed family's reputation was completely ruined. Grace finished her story, but her face still showed regret. Marcus valued face above all else. This time the woman he loved most had caused him to lose all dignity. Could their relationship still be as passionate as before? I heard that after returning home, Marcus and Elena had a fierce argument. On their wedding night, he didn't go to Elena's room but instead favored a maid. Elena angrily smashed several flower vases and fainted. The physician discovered she was pregnant. Thanks to this, Elena's status rose with her child's, and even Mrs. Reed looked upon her more favorably. Once Elena gained power, the little maid favored by Marcus met with disaster. Daily she devised various tortures for that woman, from washing feet to emptying chamber pots were common tasks. I heard she had been tormented beyond recognition. I leaned back in the long chair, hands supporting my chin and thought. Was Elena really pregnant? But in my previous life, the female corpse retrieved from the water clearly showed no signs of pregnancy. After Elena's death in my previous life, Marcus's pain was genuine. Moreover, he remained cold toward me for her sake, not hesitating to destroy my entire family to avenge her, proving he was completely unaware of Alina's pregnancy. The Reed family physician had worked for years and was an old retainer, impossible to lie. So in my previous life, was it really just a tofu seller like Elena who played us all in the palm of her hand? When Marcus righteously destroyed his family, accusing father of treason leading to the Hayes family's extermination, was there someone else's hand involved? The more I thought, the more my head ached. I had to press my temples hard. Everything was becoming increasingly complicated. Miss Elena has gone to Zuyu Tower. Not long after, a man entered her private room. The servant I'd assigned to watch Elena returned to report. Elena had struggled so hard to marry into the Reed family. How could she be involved with another man? Come, let's go to Zuyu Tower. Upon arrival, the manager coincidentally arranged a private room right next to Elena's. Miss, I can't hear anything. Grace looked at me with confusion. We don't need to listen, we just need to wait. A moment later, the adjacent room's door opened. I signaled Grace to crack our door, just in time to see the man going downstairs. How is it him? Vincent Wu, father's student. I remember in my previous life, after he became the top scholar, he was betrothed to the general's mansion, with no connection to Elena whatsoever. Did I miss something? I sat dazedly at the table thinking, so absorbed I didn't notice when Adrian entered. Serena, what are you thinking about so intently? Vincent. I suddenly snapped back to look at Adrian, feeling inexplicably guilty. Who is Vincent? Adrian seemed to be grinding his teeth. I hurriedly recounted what happened with Elena and Vincent, but it seemed to have no effect. The teeth grinding grew louder. I looked at him in confusion, and he finally gave up and took my hand. Serena, why are you so concerned about Elena? Haven't you forgotten Marcus yet? His expression was heavy, eyebrows tightly knit, seeming separated from the entire world, lonely and lost. Only then did I realize that from rebirth until now, and even in my previous life, it was always Adrian taking step by step toward me. Even when I told him to marry me, his uncertain eyes and probing tone were full of self-doubt, and I had never given him a definite answer. I stood up and embraced him, pressing my face against his solid chest, listening to his strong heartbeat. Adrian, I love you and only you. I can't explain about Marcus right now, but you must believe that toward him, I only have hatred. Adrian hugged me back, his voice gentle by my ear, somewhat hoarse yet irresistibly compelling. Serena, I'm so happy. As long as you have me in your heart, I don't care if he's Marcus or whoever. Serena, I've always loved you too. When I got home, I planned to go to Father's study to report about today's events at Zuyu Tower, but encountered Vincent on the way. Seeing me, he quickly approached and bowed. Is Miss Hayes also here to see the minister? The minister hasn't returned yet. I was planning to wait here, but unexpectedly met Miss Hayes. I had occasionally encountered him in the outer courtyard before, but we never conversed. Why was he breaking convention today by initiating conversation? Had he discovered I was investigating him? I don't have any urgent business. Since father isn't here, I'll take my leave. I turned to go. Zuyu Tower has a new drunken chicken dish. Wouldn't Miss Hayes like to pack some for the minister? Vincent's voice came from behind, strangely melodious. Is that so? I'm not convenient to go out today, but I'll definitely try it when I have the chance. So he was deliberately waiting for me here. Not probing at all, he knew the person in the adjacent room today was me, or he had seen me. During dinner, I kept thinking about this, picking up my chopsticks several times without success. Serena, what's wrong? I heard you went to the study looking for me today. Is there something? Father noticed my state and surely guessed something big had happened. I didn't know where to begin. Father valued Vincent highly, saying he had the talent of a top scholar. And indeed in my previous life he did become the top scholar. Though he was involved with Elena, I couldn't be certain the mastermind behind the Hayes family's downfall was him. Father, today your daughter went to Zuyu Tower and saw Vincent coming out of a private room. Soon after, Elena also emerged from the same room. Both carried no servants or maids. Vincent's moral character is questionable, he's unworthy to be your student. After speaking, I looked up at father, who burst into hearty laughter. Vincent already told me about this. He and Elena are from the same hometown. A few days ago when he returned home, Elena's mother asked him to deliver some things. Thinking Elena was now an official's family member, he worried about bad influence, so he secretly gave them to her. I didn't expect you to see it. Vincent's character is still trustworthy. Just this small matter made you lose your appetite. My daughter has truly grown up, already caring for father. I didn't expect Vincent had already prejudiced father. This person's scheming was deep, and he had father's complete trust. Without solid evidence, father probably wouldn't believe it. Father had lived smoothly his entire life. Grandfather became a scholar and was chosen as son-in-law by Jiangnen's wealthiest family. Grandmother brought 20 boats of dowry to the capital. In his youth, he wanted for nothing. After becoming a scholar, he married the daughter of a cabinet scholar, my mother. They lived together in harmony, perhaps his life's greatest hardship being only the imperial examinations. When someone trusts another, they completely entrust their back to them. In my previous life, I always wondered how Marcus managed to plant those documents in father's study and forge his handwriting. If it was Vincent, everything could be explained. The path through father was blocked, so I could only find my own way. The Tao family estate, the Imperial Academy's chancellor, had beautiful chrysanthemums that bloomed magnificently each year, always inviting scholars and officials' female relatives to appreciate them. I had already received an invitation. Originally, due to too many affairs after rebirth, I planned not to attend, but Grace learned that both Elena and Vincent would be there. Then I couldn't not go see for myself. Due to the propriety of separate quarters for men and women, men stayed in the front courtyard, women in the back. After entering the garden, I continued secretly following Elena. She walked increasingly towards secluded areas, and soon only we two remained. I watched her enter a room and quietly followed. Suddenly a chop to the neck knocked me unconscious. When I woke up seeing Shadow, I breathed a sigh of relief. After encountering Vincent outside the study, I had asked Adrian for a secret guard, Shadow. Little servant Grace could easily hear news about Elena and Vincent attending the chrysanthemum appreciation. I immediately knew this trap was set for me. I pretended to follow Elena, while actually having Shadow protect me from behind. As expected. "Where's Elena?" I rubbed my neck, it really hurt. This servant threw her into the room. Vincent had already lit aphrodisiac incense inside. Now Shadow didn't continue, but I understood. "You find someone to bring Marcus from the front courtyard." After Shadow left, I walked back alone, just happening to meet the Chancellor's daughter Vivian Tang standing alone. "Miss Tang, are you also lost?" Vivian forced a smile. "Indeed, Miss Hayes. Shall we go together?" While we were on our way back, we heard a crowd from another path heading this way. Vivian and I looked at each other and followed the group. Reaching a small house, we heard improper sounds from within. Madame Tao quickly dismissed the unmarried young ladies, then kicked the door open. What sluts dare to cause trouble at this old ladies' banquet? Elena and Vincent were entangled in the room when Madame Tao suddenly burst in, startling them awake. Before anyone could react, Marcus had already rushed in. "Elena, I paid such a price for you, yet you dare commit adultery with another." Marcus slapped Elena, sending her tumbling to the ground, his eyes looking at her as if he wanted to drink her blood and eat her flesh. "Marcus, I was framed by someone. It was Serena who harmed me, you must believe me." Elena knelt on the ground, both hands grasping Marcus's robe. Having been exposed in spring glory and now without a stitch of clothing, she made people's imaginations run wild. Marcus kicked her away and turned to look at me. "Serena, you're too vicious." I couldn't help but laugh. Marcus was just like this, whether in my previous life or this one, always blaming me without asking the cause. "Marcus, was your brain eaten by dogs?" "Just because she says it was me, it was me. If you don't believe it, report to the authorities. I stand straight and fear no shadow." At this moment, Vivian standing beside me looked at me, then spoke up. "I've been with Miss Hayes the entire time, young Master Reed. Don't falsely accuse others' reputations." Marcus saw he couldn't pin the blame anymore and turned back to Elena. "What else do you have to say?" Elena glared at Marcus, then turned to look at Vincent. Suddenly she burst into mad laughter. "Haha, Marcus, you truly are a fool. I just flirted with you a few times and you abandoned your childhood sweetheart fiancé. Arrogant, ignorant, and weak. Marcus, besides your good birth and decent family, what else do you have? No wonder Serena didn't bother looking at you. I don't bother with you either. You think the child in my belly is yours. You're just a cuckold." Marcus flew into rage, veins bulging. He grabbed a flower vase nearby and smashed it directly on Elena's head. Elena fell in a pool of blood, her head covered in gore, eyes looking toward Vincent, but the man on the bed didn't even give her a glance. Elena's eyes darkened and gradually went out. Elena was dead, truly dead this time. The Reed family wouldn't even provide a coffin for her, just wrapped her in a torn mat and threw her in the mass grave. When father learned that Vincent had originally planned to harm me, he gave him a beating. I treated you like my own son. Yet you tried to harm my daughter. Do you have any conscience? Vincent laughed madly, looking up at father with hatred. Treat like a son? Then why when I sought to marry Serena did you refuse? Isn't a son-in-law half a son? Honestly, you just looked down on me. Father looked at him disappointedly, not expecting to have raised such an ungrateful wolf. I could see you didn't truly like Serena, and she had no feelings for you either. Being together would only make an ill-matched couple. An ill-matched couple is still a couple. Only when I become your son-in-law will you fully support me, isn't that right? Seeing him still lost in his delusions, father knew more words were useless and expelled him from his tutelage, severing all ties. I heard that on his way home. Vincent was beaten and had his leg broken. I don't know if he managed to crawl back to his hometown. Marcus locked himself in his room from that day, ignoring whoever called, refusing to open the door. Mr. Reed couldn't stand it anymore and kicked the door open, finding him unconscious on the bed. After waking up, he was completely changed, no longer indulging in wine and women. As for me, with the wedding approaching, mother took me to Shuyan Temple to pray for blessings. Unable to change her mind, I reluctantly brought servants and guards up the mountain. Just arriving at the temple before I could pray for blessings, sounds of fighting rang out from outside. Shadow led me to hide in the nearest meditation room. Serena, I was wrong. She should have been my wife. I shouldn't have lightly believed and broken off with her. Now I know I've always loved her. Marcus's shoulders shook, his eye sockets red, tears streaming down his cheeks. He knelt before me, wanting to reach out and grab me. Shadow was quicker, blocking in front of me. Get away from her. Shadow drove him back. Shadow acted extremely quickly, and soon I could no longer hear Marcus's disgusting voice. Was he mentally ill? In my previous life he had killed my entire family, and now he wanted me to forgive him. The sounds of fighting outside grew closer. Shadow protected me as we retreated to the innermost part of the meditation room with no way back. Little beauty looks so lovely. How about becoming my mountain wife? The bandit leader reached out to touch my face. Shadow was already too busy to spare attention for me. Was I reborn only to die here again? Suddenly a whistling sound rang out, and the bandit leader's hand was pierced by a sleeve arrow. Adrian stepped out from the sunlight, once again saving my life. Recently several major incidents occurred in the capital. Shuyan Temple was besieged by bandits. The son of assistant censor, Marcus, had half his tongue cut off by bandits, becoming mute. The heir of Marquis Genuine Adrian, and the legitimate daughter of the minister's mansion Serena married. The bride's dowry stretched so long that when the first palanquin entered Marquis Genuine's mansion, the last palanquin hadn't yet left the minister's mansion. The chancellor's daughter Vivian was betrothed to the third prince. On her wedding day, Vivian came to see me. I smiled and teased her. Actually, I already saw the third prince at the chrysanthemum banquet that day. Vivian's eyes immediately widened, her mouth slightly agape. Rest assured, I'll keep your secret. Just as I finished speaking, Adrian came to fetch the bride. He wore red wedding robes, his already bright and noble bearing becoming even more vivid. I placed my hand in his palm, this time truly holding hands to grow old together. Adrian had no restraint, causing me to be late even for the tea ceremony the next day. It wasn't until noon that I dragged Adrian to the main hall. He was completely shameless, making me grind my teeth in anger. Upon entering, Marquis Genuine and his wife were already seated in the places of honor. I hurriedly knelt to present tea. After finishing, Adrian immediately pulled me outside. Reaching the door, I faintly heard Marquis Genuine's voice. I thought they wouldn't come until afternoon. Coming this early disrupted my sleep. My lord, let's sleep a bit more. I nearly stumbled. Was the entire household like this? On the third day after marriage, Adrian immediately took me out. He said he wanted to take me all around the northern territories, like a pair of divine heroes. You're the heir, don't you have work to do? I asked suspiciously. Rest assured, father still has plenty of strength. He can hold on until I finish showing you all of the northern territories. With that, he spurred his horse forward. My new life has begun. True love reveals itself through consistent actions, not passionate words. Serena's journey from bitter revenge to genuine happiness teaches us that we cannot force love or loyalty from those who don't value us. Sometimes the greatest strength lies in walking away from toxic relationships and recognizing those who have always stood by our side. Adrian's unwavering devotion, shown through years of quiet support, rather than dramatic gestures, proves that real love is patient, protective, and enduring. The story reminds us that second chances, whether through rebirth or simply new perspective, should be used wisely to choose authentic connections over convenient ones. Next is the second story in modern times. I am the only remaining master of beauty restoration left in this world. No matter how severely injured someone may be, through my hands they can at least recover 9/10 of their former appearance. In my previous life, old Master Sterling came carrying a large sum of money, begging me to come to his home to save his granddaughter Claire Sterling, who had nearly been burned to charcoal. 6 months later, old Master Sterling's eldest grandson Gabriel Sterling pursued me intensely. Claire also knelt down begging me to become her sister-in-law. I thought they were grateful that I had saved Claire years ago. But on the day I married into the Sterling family, Gabriel set fire to burn me alive in the bridal chamber. What master of beauty restoration? My grandmother had said long ago that modern medicine is advanced. Claire's appearance could obviously be completely restored. If it weren't for you, Claire would have been cured by grandmother long ago. Grandmother also wouldn't have died in an accident from disappointment over me and Claire. It's all because of you, this charlatan wanderer. Didn't you say that no matter how severely injured, through your hands they could recover 9/10 of their appearance? I want to see if you can still restore 9/10 of your appearance after being burned to charcoal. Outside the door, Claire laughed wickedly as she added more fuel to the fire. If it weren't for you, Sister Madison would have already restored my appearance long ago. Go die. I carried towering hatred as I buried myself in the sea of flames. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the day old Master Sterling came with a large sum of money begging me to come save Claire. I reluctantly spread my hands. Your granddaughter has been burned beyond human recognition. I don't have the ability to restore her to 9/10 of her former appearance. You should find someone more skilled. Upon hearing this, old Master Sterling seemed to age several years in an instant. He had exhausted all his resources to find the most prestigious experts, but Claire's appearance remained terrifyingly grotesque. If I didn't save her, Claire would truly have to live her entire life with this appearance. Claire is my only granddaughter. She has loved beauty since childhood. If you don't help save her, Claire's life will be ruined. He was ready to kneel and beg me, and I hurriedly helped him up. Claire's appearance before me was frightening, her body covered with surgical scars, her originally slender fingers fused together by high temperatures. In my previous life, I had spent 9 years and suffered greatly to restore 9/10 of her appearance. By the later stages, her appearance and body were no different from before. At this moment, Gabriel pulled Sophia Madison and burst through the door, looking at me with eyes full of contempt. Grandfather, this Victoria is fundamentally a charlatan wanderer. Modern medicine is so advanced. Why do we need to beg her? He quickly pulled Sophia before old Master Sterling, speaking sincerely. Madison is the one who can save Claire. She's now a very famous plastic surgeon in the industry, who can easily restore Claire's appearance to its original state. Grandfather, do you want a perfect Claire or a Claire who's only 9/10 restored? In my previous life, Gabriel never appeared at my door. Could it be that he was also reborn? After speaking, old Master Sterling looked expectantly at Sophia. Those present had all heard of Sophia's renowned title as a divine healer, so their gazes toward her became even more trusting. Sophia smiled confidently. Of course. I've cured injuries more severe than Miss Claire's. Moreover, Miss Claire is Brother Gabriel's sister. No matter how hard I try, I will restore Miss Claire's appearance to its original state. After speaking, she looked at me triumphantly. While I smiled faintly. Mr. Sterling, since you've found someone who can save your granddaughter, I'll take my leave. Gabriel saw me turn to leave and mocked. Victoria is putting on airs again, isn't she? In this life, Madison will not only save Claire, but also completely restore her appearance. In the previous life, if it weren't for you, how could Claire's appearance only be restored to 9/10? You're nothing but a charlatan wanderer trying to climb the social ladder. In this life, don't even dream of marrying into the Sterling family. Someone as vicious as you should bear all the suffering that Madison endured in the previous life. He whispered the most venomous words in my ear. But in the previous life, Sophia was never humiliated at all. It was all just a place she orchestrated herself to destroy me. Moreover, it wasn't that I wanted to climb the social ladder, but Gabriel who desperately begged me to marry him. According to Sophia's medical skills, restoring Claire to even 3/10 would be difficult. Thinking of Claire's fierce expression in the previous life, when she laughed wickedly wanting the fire to burn more fiercely, I turned and left the Sterling house. In this life, I will never save her again. Just as I left the Sterling house, I saw several people who had intended to humiliate Sophia in the previous life. They laughed cunningly as they surrounded me. We haven't tasted the flavor of a master of beauty restoration yet. She looks curvy, wonder what she'd taste like. They grabbed my arms and legs, pressing me down to the ground. My clothes were stripped off piece by piece. I struggled to push them away. Seeing me struggle, their actions became even more violent. Why did they suddenly appear here? Why did they know I was the master of beauty restoration? I suddenly thought of something, looking back toward the Sterling house gate in disbelief, only to see Gabriel gently covering Sophia's eyes, coldly watching me in my miserable state. Madison, don't look, children shouldn't watch, don't dirty your eyes. The hatred in my heart spread like vines throughout my body. In the previous life, he had blamed everything Sophia had to endure on me, causing me to perish in flames. In this life, he even found people to destroy my purity. Tears of humiliation flowed from my eyes as I prepared to use the poison needle on my body to kill those men. This was the last life, saving method of the master of beauty restoration, and also a method that couldn't be used unless desperate. When I was stripped down to just an undergarment, I gathered my strength to strike. The next second, people from the Reed family suddenly appeared. Several leading bodyguards directly kicked those men away. Gabriel saw who had arrived and frowned with displeasure. Lucas Reed, why is it you? What are you doing here? Haven't you caused enough harm to my sister? Lucas paid no attention to him. Who exactly harmed whom? Everyone here knows clearly in their hearts. If it weren't for Claire's reckless fire setting, how could Miss Reed have encountered such an undeserved calamity? Lucas quickly walked to me, gently helping me up, his tone extremely sincere. Divine Healer Victoria, please save my sister. As soon as he spoke, Gabriel opened his mouth with displeasure, his tone full of mockery. You're calling her a divine healer? Lucas, are you crazy? There's only one divine healer, and that's Madison. Having Victoria treat you. I'm afraid your sister will never dream of looking in a mirror again in this life. Victoria, you'll stop at nothing to marry into wealth, you despicable woman. Seducing me wasn't enough, now you want to seduce Lucas too. Hearing Gabriel's words, Lucas quickly protected me, his voice turning cold. Mr. Sterling, you'd better accumulate some virtue for your sister. How dare you slander divine healer Victoria? Whether my sister can look in a mirror in this life is uncertain. But your sister most likely won't be able to. After speaking, his eyes reddened. He begged me again to save his sister. I silently recalled the injured appearance of his sister from the previous life, feeling confident in my heart. His sister Lily Reed's injuries weren't as severe as Claire's. In the previous life, he had also desperately begged me to save his sister, but each time he was obstructed by Claire in every possible way. Plus, treating Claire had already exhausted all my strength. Only after my death did I learn that before being injured, Lily was much more beautiful than Claire. Claire had long disliked Lily. After Claire's appearance was restored to 9/10, she immediately mocked Lily for being extremely ugly. 1 month later in the previous life was Claire's birthday. She deliberately pretended to make peace, inviting Lily to attend her birthday party, deceiving Lily into thinking she would explain the cause of the fire incident. Only when Lily arrived at the party in a wheelchair, did she discover that all the renowned figures in the city had gathered there. In the end, Lily couldn't bear the strange looks and humiliation from everyone and committed suicide at home. Even in death, she didn't blame anyone, only mumbling that she shouldn't have brought shame to the Reed family. Thinking of this, I slowly spoke. Gabriel, do you dare make a bet with me? Let's bet on who will dare to appear at Claire's birthday party 1 month from now. I'll wager all my assets plus my facial restoration techniques. Do you dare? Hearing me say I would bet my restoration techniques, Sophia's eyes flashed with greed, but in a blink, her expression immediately turned to disdain. How much are your assets worth? Moreover, your restoration techniques may not be better than my medical skills. Brother Gabriel, this bet isn't fair at all. Gabriel gently patted Sophia's head, his eyes full of affection. Just for fun. 1 million yuan, I bet Victoria loses. Sophia immediately nestled into his arms, speaking coquettishly. You're so mean. 1 million yuan? That's enough to buy her life already. Don't bully her anymore. I laughed coldly, looking at both of them. 1 million? Does young Master Sterling only value his biological sister at that amount? Just one order I take already exceeds that figure. I'm betting 100 million. Does Mr. Sterling dare to follow? As soon as I finished speaking, Gabriel's eyes immediately darkened, and Sophia was so angry her chest heaved, nearly choking on her words. Before Gabriel could react, Sophia quickly spoke for him. Of course we'll follow. How dare you insult Claire like that? It's no different from declaring war on the entire Sterling family. We bet 1% of Sterling Corporation shares. Before she finished speaking, I had already laughed out loud. 1% shares. Are you giving charity to beggars? Hearing me say this, Sophia's face immediately turned from green to white. 1% of Sterling shares is worth at least 500 million yuan. If you want to match it, then speak up. At this moment Lucas, who had been silent, gently tugged my hand, then turned to speak calmly. I'll bet 10% of Reed Corporation shares. Mr. Sterling, do you dare to follow? I slightly frowned, about to stop him, but he just looked at me gently, his eyes full of trust as if saying, don't worry. My sister's condition is largely caused by Claire. I've long wanted to seek justice for the girl. Moreover, I trust in divine healer Victoria's medical skills. Let's go. Saving people is the priority right now. My heart warmed slightly. Gabriel stood there with a cold face, looking at Lucas with provocative eyes. The stakes had nearly made him lose control, but he still retained a bit of rationality. There were quite a few people around holding up their phones filming. This bet was no longer a joke. While he was still hesitating, Sophia quickly spoke up for him. Fine then, 10% it is. Victoria, I'm waiting for the day you lose all reputation, and are kicked out of the industry, wandering the streets. Seeing Sophia so confident, Gabriel finally felt somewhat relieved. I and Gabriel quickly called lawyers to sign agreements and have them notarized. Before leaving, Gabriel didn't forget to leave a cold, mocking remark behind me. Victoria, being a divine healer isn't something you can just claim to be. I very much look forward to the day you're completely disgraced. I found Gabriel's words quite accurate. Being a divine healer isn't something anyone can just claim to be. When we arrived at the Reed house, Lily was lying quietly on the hospital bed. The Reed family members stood around, all showing obvious heartbreak. The doctors had tried their best to treat and recover her, but still couldn't return Lily's appearance to normal levels. I had everyone leave, keeping only a photo of Lily when she was intact that Lucas had given me. Then I officially began facial restoration for her. Throughout that month, Gabriel messaged me daily with gloating updates on Claire's recovery progress. I told you. Madison's medical skills are far superior to your so-called restoration techniques. Look at my Claire, isn't she almost back to her former self? If you're willing to admit defeat now and strip naked in front of Sterling Corporation holding a sign shouting, I am a lowly charlatan fraud, then I can pretend this bet never happened. I just smiled faintly. Gabriel was truly incredibly stupid. He didn't realize that Claire's limbs were swollen like balls of meat, with no trace of individual fingers. Even her face was just a temporary effect, a short-term rejuvenation mask. I had even overestimated Sophia, thinking she at least had enough skill to restore 3/10. Now it seems I still thought too highly of her. In this life, restoring Lily's appearance was much easier than restoring Claire's face in the previous life. Not only because Lily's injuries were lighter, but also because she wasn't as difficult as Claire. In the previous life, I had devoted all my heart and soul to help Claire restore her appearance. Yet behind my back she often unleashed her spoiled young lady attitude on me. Victoria, you're nothing but a dog kept by my family with money. I said I need to be more beautiful than before. Don't you understand human speech? Only restoring 9/10. What use are you? Don't think I don't know grandfather paid you at least tens of millions of yuan. Do you think the Sterling family's money falls from trees? I used to think it was because she was injured that her psychology was unstable. So every day I endured and tried to comfort her, restoring bit by bit, both her body and face. In the end, she changed her attitude, softly apologizing to me and acting coquettishly around me. I thought that since her face was healed, her psychological trauma had gradually healed too. But I never expected that in the end she held a grudge, blaming me for only helping her restore 9/10 of her beauty. Time flew by quickly over that month. Lily cooperated fully throughout the treatment process. By now, her appearance was no different from before. The Reed family surrounded Lily, staring at her without blinking. Her mother nearly collapsed to her knees before me from overwhelming emotion. Claire's birthday party was held with great fanfare, no different from the previous life. The city's elite were almost all present in full attendance. Clearly Gabriel had spent considerable effort to use this opportunity to establish Sophia's medical reputation. But the moment Lily stepped onto the stage, the entire hall seemed to hold its breath. Continuous sounds of admiration rang out, Some people had visited Lily after the accident and clearly knew how severely burned she had been. Yet now before their eyes was a Lily as delicate as a porcelain doll, every feature perfect beyond imagination. Even so, most people still anxiously awaited Claire's appearance. Because under Gabriel's deliberate spreading, my image in the eyes of high society had long been distorted into a fake wandering doctor, someone who only knew how to deceive people with a few charlatan tricks. And if even a fake doctor like me could restore Lily's appearance to such exquisite levels, then surely Claire, who was personally treated by the renowned divine healer Sophia, would be even more perfect. Everyone in high society knew about the bet between me and Gabriel. Before today, almost everyone believed I would lose because my opponent was Sophia, who was hailed by the entire medical community as a divine healer. People began cheering, eager to see Claire's appearance. Soon, Gabriel pushed Claire in a wheelchair onto the stage, but what surprised everyone was that Sophia was nowhere to be seen. At this moment, Claire's face indeed looked no different from before, but her entire body was wrapped tightly in a thick coat, covering almost every part. Just then, someone spoke up. Although both Miss Reed and Miss Sterling have maintained their former beauty, Lily can already stand up, while Claire still has to sit in a wheelchair. Doesn't this prove that divine healer Victoria's skills are superior? Gabriel's face turned livid with anger as he quickly signaled for Claire to stand up, clearly believing that Sophia had completed the treatment. Claire immediately turned pale, her face ashen and eyes panicked, but under the gaze of so many people, she couldn't not stand up. And just as she stood up, the glove she was wearing slipped off her hand and fell straight to the floor. The scene that was revealed caused the entire hall to fall silent. All eyes were drawn to that uncovered hand. The skin exposed under the lights was like melted meat, deformed and shapeless, completely inhuman. Quite a few people couldn't help but gasp, and even some children nearby burst into tears from fright. My God, look at Miss Sterling's hand. What happened here? Gabriel stood frozen, reflexively bending down to pick up the fallen glove and carefully putting it back on Claire. The hand was so swollen it was impossible to distinguish individual fingers. Even at this point, he still stubbornly insisted. Madison said Claire's injuries were more severe than Lily's, so her hands haven't fully recovered yet. But Claire's face has returned to normal, which is enough to prove Madison's medical skills far exceed Victoria's. I couldn't help but laugh. Superior medical skills. Gabriel, would you like to take a closer look at what Claire is wearing on her head? From the moment Claire appeared, I had noticed the unnaturally stiff expression on her face. Gabriel seemed to begin sensing something was wrong too. He looked more carefully, then very quickly his expression changed as he understood what I meant. His hand trembled as he slowly pulled down the artificial skin covering Claire's face. Beneath that mask was a face destroyed beyond description, with patches of festering, rough skin, without any trace of her former beauty. Gabriel's body went limp, his legs gave out, and he collapsed to the ground like a lost soul. Sterling family members quickly brought Sophia, who had been caught at the airport, back to the hall. Gabriel looked at Sophia, his face full of disbelief. Madison, when you handed Claire over to me, her face wasn't this bad. The doctors had already restored part of it. So why is there not a single patch of healthy skin left on her face now? Of course there wasn't any. Because the human mask Claire wore required absorbing living human blood to maintain its temporary appearance. Gabriel grabbed Sophia's throat like a madman, his eyes red with hatred. You evil woman, you said you could cure Claire. Is this what you call good work? Sophia was immediately choked breathless but still managed to make weak sounds. Brother Gabriel, I wanted to cure Claire more than anyone. It must be Victoria's doing. She holds a grudge about being humiliated at the Sterling house gates before, so she deliberately harmed Claire. Hearing this, Gabriel finally released his grip and turned to me with eyes cold as ice. Victoria, if you're willing to cure Claire now, I can consider overlooking your poisoning of her. Otherwise, Sterling Corporation's legal department will make sure you can't survive. I nearly laughed from anger. Whatever she says, you believe completely, trusting her to the point of harming your own sister. Not to mention that Sophia's mouth is full of lies. Just the fact that I could leave the Sterling house with its tight security system would already be a miracle. Yet you claim I could secretly poison Claire. Has your brain been made stupid by her? I smiled coldly, but Gabriel remained unconvinced, stepping closer to me with eyes that seemed to want to extract some conscience or remorse from deep within my eyes. Too bad he was completely disappointed. I reflexively stepped back, as if avoiding a plague, not bothering to feign sympathy. That action was like a knife stabbed straight into his cracked self-esteem. Gabriel clenched his fists, restraining his anger, his voice hoarse and thick. "You evil woman. Claire used to call you sister-in-law word by word. Even if you didn't harm her, how can you bear to watch her die slowly before your eyes?" I stepped back toward Lucas's side, my eyes full of mockery. "Sister-in-law. That sounds ridiculous. You mean while calling me sister-in-law with her mouth, she was secretly adding fuel to the fire with her hands to make me burn faster?" Everyone around still didn't understand what was happening, looking between me and Gabriel with confused eyes. But Gabriel's expression suddenly changed drastically. I knew he had understood. Just 1 second later, he stared at me intently, his eyes filled with shock and disbelief. "You've come back too." He stepped forward, gripping my hand tightly, his eyes carrying a last ray of hope. "Save Claire. I was wrong. I shouldn't have doubted your restoration abilities. Only you can save her. You're still my wife, aren't you? You still love me, don't you?" I looked at him and smiled faintly, my eyes devoid of any emotion, only undisguisable disgust. "Too late. For the entire past month, your Claire has been wearing a human mask every day. That skin directly absorbs living blood from her face to maintain its shape. Now don't say it's me. Even if immortals came down, they might not be able to save her." As soon as I finished speaking, everyone in the hall immediately looked at Sophia with contempt and indignation. Still calling herself a divine healer. How dare she use such a human mask to harm someone to this extent for a bet? Now look what's happened. Not only has she ruined Miss Claire's entire life, but she's also caused the Sterling family to lose 10% of their shares to Victoria. People around began whispering, taking turns expressing their outrage on Gabriel's behalf. Sophia's eyes were red with tears streaming down, looking pitiful as if driven to desperation, pleadingly looking toward Gabriel. But at this moment he had long been furious beyond reason. If it weren't for so many people watching, he would have strangled Sophia on the spot. I glanced at Claire sitting in the wheelchair, her face ravaged beyond recognition, and couldn't help but sigh inwardly. In the previous life, I had helped her restore 9/10 of her appearance. In return, I received only contemptuous looks, mocking tones, and finally her joyful laughter beside the fire that burned me alive. Now, the birthday party had become a complete chaos. The party's host could only sit silently in her wheelchair, tears flowing down her face without being able to say a word. Suddenly, a slap like thunder rang out. Gabriel swung his hand and slapped Sophia directly across the face, screaming like a madman. "You wicked woman. It's all because of you that Claire became like this. You should be the one with a ruined face." I stepped forward, holding out the prepared contract, speaking as casually as if it had nothing to do with me. "Mr. Sterling, so many people are watching. Aren't you afraid of losing face treating a divine healer like this? At most you just need to pay the 10% shares on time. I'm waiting to receive them." Gabriel's chest heaved with anger, his eyes red with fury. In the end, he still had to grit his teeth and sign the contract under everyone's scrutinizing gaze. I turned to leave, but before stepping through the door, I pulled out a thin stack of documents and casually threw them down in front of him. "Oh, Mr. Sterling. It seems you once said I poisoned Madison. Well then, please take a look at these documents. You might find a surprise beyond your imagination." Gabriel bent down to pick up the file, his hands trembling as he opened the first page. In that stack of documents was the complete record of those who had humiliated me at the Sterling house gates a month ago. In the previous life, it was because he believed those men had violated Sophia that he went insane and burned me to death in the bridal chamber. But in reality, those men were just actors hired by Sophia herself. In the documents, the connection between her and those men was clearly exposed. Every bank transfer, every recording, every text message was undeniably clear. Gabriel stared at Sophia in deadly silence, who was still crying and begging for forgiveness, with paralyzed eyes, as if all the strength in his body had been drained. He looked up, following my retreating figure as I walked out of the hall, his heart heavy as if crushed by stones, suffocating to the extreme. So Sophia had always been deceiving him. So a month ago Claire could still have been saved. In his rage, he kicked Sophia directly, then ordered Claire to be taken to an isolation room. No matter how much he regretted now, it was too late. Standing outside the thick glass watching Claire lying quietly, her face nearly completely destroyed, breathing weakly, Gabriel just wanted to slap himself hard. Grandfather had trusted him and Sophia so much. Yet he had betrayed that trust with an irredeemable mistake. Gabriel ordered security to imprison Sophia in the isolated basement under the Sterling house. When Sophia tried to escape, all airports and ports had been controlled by Sterling Corporation people. She was dragged back like a torn doll, tears streaming, crawling and begging. "Brother Gabriel, I was wrong, I know I was wrong. I had no idea Claire's injuries were that severe. You never told me she was burned almost to charcoal. I just wanted to help you win the bet, that's why I used the human mask. I did it all for you. You once said I was the person you loved most. You once said you would marry me. You can't treat me like this." But in return was only a cold smile that chilled to the bone. Gabriel pulled out a sharp surgical knife thin as a thread, gently placed it on the face that once called itself divine healer, then coldly drew a line down. But at this moment Gabriel had no mind to listen to her pleas anymore. In his head now were only images of me leaving coldly and Claire's nightmarish horrifying face. Why couldn't he trust Victoria just once? Clearly in the previous life, thanks to her, Claire had recovered very well. He bent down to pick up the human mask thrown on the floor, studying every line obsessively. "This mask is truly strange. It feeds on Claire's blood to survive. Tell me, what effect would it have if I put this mask on your face?" Sophia looked at Gabriel at this moment, his eyes bloodshot, his laughing expression twisted, his aura completely mad, and couldn't help but feel terrified. "Brother Gabriel, you can't do this to me." But Gabriel showed only a cold smile cutting like wind. "Sophia, you did it on purpose from the beginning, didn't you? This mask was originally left by your grandfather and should have been destroyed long ago." Being exposed, Sophia finally tore off all pretense. "That's right, I did it on purpose. So what? I've been secretly hiding this mask for a long time. 10 years ago, your mother came to my grandfather, seeking this mask to keep your father's heart, begging him to give it to her. My grandfather clearly warned that the human mask had extremely serious side effects. Yet your mother, after benefiting from the mask, couldn't control herself, and ultimately had her appearance destroyed. When everything came to light, she blamed everything on my grandfather, causing him to spend his life practicing medicine, only to die amid universal condemnation, branded a charlatan. I only hate that I couldn't drag your entire family to hell with my grandfather to apologize." Her voice was almost screaming, every word like blood flowing from her mouth. "Do you know how terrified I was when I heard Victoria could truly restore Claire's beauty? Haha, but what about now? Claire used the human mask again, even Victoria can't save her anymore. She deserves it, your whole family deserves this." After she finished speaking, Gabriel's mind went completely blank. So everything was a play directed by Sophia herself. She spread false news about being humiliated, pushing Victoria into the enemy role just to destroy the last chance Claire had to be saved. And because of this, in the previous life Victoria had been burned alive by him on their wedding night. The pain in his chest pierced like needles, making him almost unable to breathe. In the previous life, he and Claire had completely misunderstood her. Only Victoria was truly the one person who could save Claire's face. Looking at Sophia chained in the dark basement, Gabriel's eyes filled with hatred as he put the human mask on her face, letting her also experience what it felt like to have the blood and flesh on her face slowly drained bit by bit. Don't let her die. Wait until her face is completely destroyed. Then throw her into a water dungeon for life imprisonment, living worse than death. The miserable screams echoing from the basement sent chills down one's spine. Gabriel clenched his fists, expressionless as he left the place. As he reached the door, he suddenly felt choked up. He wanted to see Victoria. This time, even if she couldn't save Claire anymore, he wanted to marry her, protect her, and spend his entire life making amends. But when he was only halfway there, he received news that Claire had just woken up, emotionally unstable and agitated, continuously crying and demanding to see her brother. Gabriel unconsciously slowed his pace. He didn't know how to face his sister. Inside the hospital room, all the doctors and nurses were pressed against the walls, none daring to approach. A nurse's uniform stained with blood had just been hit by something Claire threw. Claire was now completely in a state of panic and madness. Despite her torn wounds bleeding, she still screamed frantically like a cornered beast. "Wasn't I already cured? Why does my face still hurt so much? Wasn't I already restored to 9/10 of my beauty? Why is my face still bleeding? Why don't I have fingers anymore? Why is my body still covered in such disgusting scars? You useless people, is the Sterling family keeping you as decorative pillars? Speak up. Mirror, where's the mirror? Quickly bring me a mirror. I told you to bring it. Are you all deaf?" Gabriel Sterling entered just at that moment, pushing the door to see the chaotic scene. Claire was wrapped in white bandages, her face deformed beyond recognition, screaming through tears while medical staff huddled to one side not daring to approach. Seeing Gabriel appear, Claire lunged toward him like grasping a lifeline, her eyes full of expectation. "Brother, wasn't I already cured? I heard people say you invited Sister Madison to treat me. This time I'll surely be even more beautiful than in my previous life. Right, brother." Seeing Claire's hopeful eyes, Gabriel's eyes flashed with a trace of heartbreak. From her voice, he knew she had also returned from the previous life. "Brother, why aren't you saying anything? Say something. Where's Madison? Why hasn't she come yet?" The room sank into an eerie silence, no one daring to answer. Though Claire's face was tightly bandaged, it couldn't hide the blood seeping through from inside. Not a single patch of healthy skin remaining. No matter how slow to react, at this moment she could sense the unusual atmosphere. She tremblingly propped herself up, stumbling step by step toward the bathroom to find a mirror, her last remaining hope. But throughout the room, even the bathroom didn't have a single piece of mirror. Claire was utterly disappointed, her eyes vacant. Finally she glanced toward the window and saw from the dim reflection on the glass a distorted, horrifying image, her own face at this moment. A scream rang out, tearing through the suffocating silence. She couldn't believe it, wanting to reach up and touch her own face, but the hand she raised was a charred, deformed lump of meat, no longer in human shape. "No, this can't be. This must be a nightmare. Brother, where's Madison? She can save me. She definitely can save me." Watching his sister go mad, frantically searching for Sophia like clinging to the last life preserver, Gabriel finally clenched his fists and choked out, "Claire, we were deceived by Madison. The one who treated you was her, and your face now can't be saved anymore." As soon as he finished speaking, Claire's entire body seemed drained of all strength. She collapsed to her knees on the floor, her eyes empty, her soul seemingly half taken away. But just a few seconds later, in that chaos, a name appeared in her head: Victoria. Then where's Victoria? She can definitely save me. In the previous life, she saved me too. Even if she can only restore 9/10 or however many tenths, anything is fine as long as it's not like this. Gabriel froze. Yes, even saving just a few tenths would be fine. Yet in the previous life, they were the ones who looked down on those 9/10, driving Victoria to despair. He sighed, placed Claire in a wheelchair, and pushed her out of the hospital room. He also wanted to see Victoria. In the previous life, she must have loved him, otherwise how could she willingly marry him after so much humiliation? In this life, he couldn't lose her again. As long as Victoria was willing to return, he was ready to pay any price. The car quickly entered the main gate of the Reed house. Before they could even enter, Gabriel Sterling and Claire heard cheerful laughter coming from the villa. Inside the house, Lily wore a princess dress, surrounded and pampered by her entire family. At her feet, gifts were piled high, all from major families congratulating her complete recovery. With fair, smooth skin, a radiant face, and lively eyes, Lily had clearly fully recovered, even more beautiful than before. This scene nearly caused Claire to collapse. Impossible. Clearly in the previous life Lily lived with an ugly face until death. And on my birthday, she died by suicide. Why is she still alive? Why is she still being celebrated and loved like a princess? Claire completely lost control, screaming and shattering the warm atmosphere inside the villa. "Lily, weren't you supposed to be dead? Why are you still alive? The one who should have been disfigured was you. You despicable woman, it's all because of you. If you had been willing to shield me that day, I wouldn't have been so severely injured." Hearing Claire's venomous words, I was certain she had also been reborn and returned. Too bad she had just woken up only to see herself in this terrifying state. The Reed family members, hearing Claire's cruel words, all showed obvious displeasure. "Please watch your language carefully. If you dare insult Lily with one more word, don't blame the Reed family for being inhospitable." Claire was frustrated and choked with anger, turning to Gabriel for help, but unexpectedly saw me standing beside Lucas. Her eyes immediately blazed with hatred. "Victoria, why are you here? Lily was treated by you, wasn't she? You're my sister-in-law, how could you help that despicable woman get treatment?" I curved my lips in a cold smile. "Sister-in-law? Who are you talking about? I don't understand at all." I raised my hand to show the ring as big as a pigeon egg that Lucas had put on my finger this morning. Miss Sterling must be too traumatized and talking nonsense. "I'm Lily's sister-in-law." Gabriel saw this and immediately lunged forward like a madman, gripping my hand tightly, his eyes bloodshot. Victoria, how could you betray me? Clearly you also returned from the previous life. We once swore before the gods that we would be together forever. I forcefully pushed his hand away, coldly mocking him. You also said forever for one lifetime, but now this is a different lifetime. Gabriel stood there stunned as if stabbed in the heart. His eyes empty, tears welling up. He mumbled like a sleepwalker. How did it come to this? Clearly I had resolved to treat you well. Just then Claire, who had been dejected moments before, suddenly laughed coldly with a tone of contempt. Brother, just ignore her. Every time you two argued, didn't she always come running back to apologize and beg your forgiveness? Like a stray dog, never able to break old habits. I don't believe she can truly let go of you. Claire lifted her chin, arrogantly looking at me and sneering. Victoria, I'll give you one chance. As long as you're willing to treat me right now, I can still let you be my sister-in-law. The Reed family members all looked at her, as if watching someone who'd lost their mind. I smiled slightly, not even bothering to blink. You should save that opportunity for someone who dreams of being on your level. Claire huffed coldly, cursing everything, still not forgetting to say that there would come a day when I'd have to crawl back begging for forgiveness. Too lazy to argue, I just gently said one sentence. Perhaps you should know that the human mask Sophia used on you is the same type your mother once wore. That sentence was like lightning striking across clear skies. Claire froze, her eyes filled with panic. The human mask was what Mother had once used. Old memories came flooding back. After Mother's face was destroyed, she herself had spread word everywhere that Sophia's grandfather was a charlatan, completely ruining his reputation. Now she understood, it was all a cycle, and she was the most pitiable pawn being deceived. Claire's eyes looking at me became panicked. She no longer cared about maintaining dignity, lunging forward to kneel down, clutching at my dress hem. Victoria, please, save me. I know you can, right? 9/10 is fine, not even 9/10 is needed, just don't let me have this face anymore. I quietly pushed her hand away, my eyes cold but my voice carrying a trace of unclear regret. Too late. The gentle words were like a passing breeze but made Claire's entire body tremble, as if someone had drained her last breath. She collapsed, her eyes vacant, mumbling like a spell. It's you, it's all because of you. If you had been willing to save me, I wouldn't have become like this. You definitely knew Sophia couldn't cure me. You knew clearly. So why didn't you save me? You evil woman. The one who should have been disfigured was Lily, it should have been her. Lucas's face darkened as he coldly ordered, "See the guests out." A few days later, I heard news that Claire ultimately couldn't bear the shock. She had committed suicide right in her own home. Before dying, she never stopped mumbling in despair. Let me do it over. Please let me do it over again. But this time there was no next life to return to. The incident made old Master Sterling furious to the extreme. He revoked almost all power from Gabriel's hands. To him, Gabriel had completely lost the qualification to inherit. He couldn't trust someone without capability, and even less could he forgive someone who had driven his granddaughter to a dead end. In the end, Gabriel was exiled to the most remote branch company in the Sterling Corporation system, working as a frontline employee, living like a shadow. From someone standing at the pinnacle falling straight to the bottom, the pressure, torment, and guilt over his sister's death made him increasingly haggard. Not long after, he died in loneliness. But all of that no longer had anything to do with me. I leaned gently against Lucas's chest, feeling the steady heartbeat in his chest. Outside, Lily was running freely in the garden, her white dress fluttering in the sunlight. Warm sunlight covered our bodies, shining upon the dark days I had once endured in my previous life. The darkness had passed. Now I had light and an ending that I had chosen with my own hands. The end. Thank you all so much for always accompanying and supporting us throughout this time. Hope everyone enjoys listening to the story. Trust earned through genuine care surpasses beauty and wealth. Victoria's tragedy stemmed from Gabriel's blind faith and deception over her proven devotion. When given a second chance, she chose self-respect over toxic relationships, finding true love with someone who valued her character. The story reveals that authentic connections built on mutual respect and understanding create lasting happiness, while relationships founded on manipulation, jealousy, and superficial qualities inevitably lead to destruction. Sometimes walking away from those who betrayed us opens doors to people who truly deserve our gifts.